Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, I'm going to be telling you my 5 favorite lures for fishing in the pre-spawn. This video will include everything to know about these lures, including tips, tricks, and techniques. For those of you returning to my channel, I know I said I would be making my fall fishing tips video right now, but actually I thought that would make more sense to do in the fall instead of doing it this early in the spring. This video is going to be a lot more relevant to you guys for fishing right now versus a fall video. I hope you enjoy. And lastly, before I get into all of the baits, I want to say, 1, thank you for 160 subscribers. It really means a lot to me. I'm growing pretty quickly now, and I would love for you guys to become subscribers on my channel. You can do so by hitting that red subscribe button down below, and it'll let you know every single time I post a video if you hit the bell icon. A reason you might subscribe is if you really like fishing, because I post tips videos, regular fishing videos, and how-to videos all about fishing. I also do outdoor videos and hiking videos. So if you're interested in all of those topics, it would really help me out if you subscribed. Anyway, let's get into the baits. For the first lure, the line you would want to throw is 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. Pound doesn't really matter as long as it's above 10 pounds. You don't want to break off on any like trees or any really big fish. You want fluorocarbon because 1, it doesn't like float and it's almost invisible in the water. It's really good for these reaction style baits. For those of you waiting, this is the jerkbait. This is a more shallow diving jerkbait right there. This is in like a pro bone color. And then this right here, it's a Lucky Strike jerkbait. It's more of a deeper diving jerkbait. I like Lucky Strikes a lot because they're really realistic, look exactly like the Mega Bass jerkbaits, which are really good. They have super good hooks, and I really like this color. It's like a green apple purple almost, with a little bit of gold on the bottom. But for bait number 1, a technique I really like to use with it is a twitch pause technique. Now what that does is it makes your bait go side to side, and then it just sits there, slowly sink unless it's like a floating jerkbait. And usually bass will hit that. A lesson, the colder the water is, the longer the pause. So let's say it's like 45-degree water temps, which we have probably around me, or if you're like more south when you have like 50 to 60-degree water temps, waiting time, the pause will be shorter for the warmer the water. But still at this time of year, I would probably have a 5 to 8 second pause for 45-degree water. That's really cold, but bass really tend to hit this, especially in the pre-spawn, which this video is about. But bait number 1, the jerkbait. I really like it. One of the best ways to catch fish. It's a really fun way to catch fish, and usually you don't lose too many because of the treble hooks. I also prefer a jerkbait that has a little bit of a rattle in it. I just find that it makes more attention, and the bass flock to it more than the silent ones. This Lucky Strike here has a great rattle. My next lure can be thrown on pretty much anything braid, monofilament, fluorocarbon. I usually like braid for this lure because it's hitting the bottom a lot. Now I know the abrasion resistance or whatever it's called on braid isn't the best. It cuts sometimes, which is why I'll usually put like a 15 to 20 pound leader, fluorocarbon leader on it. But this lure is the swim jig. I have a Guggen Squad Grass Hero with a saucy swimmer on the end. What I did to this saucy swimmer, I bit off the head, as you can see, to make it a better presentation for a trailer. Now this is a bluegill colored lure. I really like bluegill in the pre-spawn because they're feeding up on bait fish, getting all big for the spawn. I also like white. Whites are usually better for clear water, and more stained water you'll want more of a green pumpkin or like an orange or a bluegill. I really like bluegill because 1, it imitates bluegill, and this color looks really good, exactly like a bluegill. In this boot tail / paddle tail swim bait, I really like. You can probably use a Kitech Fat Swing Impact or anything like that. I really like putting a trailer on it. Sometimes I'll put a craw trailer, but usually not too much because it's imitating a bait fish. The ways I like to retrieve this, you can either slow, steady retrieve it, which is really good because you get this boot tail constantly moving and fish will think it's exactly like a bluegill. It's very similar action to like a crankbait. That's what the fish see. Another great way is if it's really finicky and the bass aren't biting, or if it's like super cold, I'll hop it up like over rocks and such, and then this paddle tail will swim like that, and then as it falls, that paddle tail will swim down again, and it kind of looks like a dying bluegill. Colors I would use, definitely the bluegill. I also like whites and grays to imitate shad or other kinds of bait fish. Those also work really well. But my second bait on my list is the swim jig. My next lure is a very similar lure to the swim jig actually. It is the Z-Man Original Chatterbait. You can literally use whatever brand, but I really like the Z-Man Original Chatterbaits. I just find that it's the best, has the most vibrating motion, and I seem to catch more fish on it than other brands. I'm not sponsored by Z-Man, I'm not sponsored by anyone. If there's a fishing company watching this deep into the video, please subscribe to my channel and please offer me a sponsorship because I am looking for one. But it's a chatterbait. If it's like a Z-Man, it's also known as a vibrating jig. Great ways I like to retrieve this is, again, a slow, steady retrieve. This thing can freely move on the top and vibrate as it does whenever it swims through the water. I also like to kind of give it, whenever I'm swimming it, I really like to jerk my rod, because that'll make this chatterbait just go like that, and then it'll pause for a little bit, just like a big bait ball or like a bait fish as it's swimming. Usually fish don't constantly swim. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they'll stop and slow down for a little bit and then speed up. So to make it all the more realistic, I like, one, putting on a trailer, which I'll talk about in a second, but adding a little bit of a jerk in there. You can really fish it anyway. The chatterbait is an easy bait to fish. It's a bait that a lot of anglers aren't super comfortable with fishing, and I hope this year I can actually get more comfortable with it. But the chatterbait is the third lure on my list. Now back to the trailer. I like putting on a boot tail swim bait. This is a, I believe a Kitech original minnow swimmer, or whatever they're called. This is like a chartreuse and white and also like bluegill color almost. I actually found this, but so I don't exactly know the color. It's pretty rusted, but hopefully I can fix that up. I really like the trailer on that, so that's one color. My second favorite color would actually be like an all white or a white and gray silver, which is what this is. This is another Z-Man Original Chatterbait, as you can see right there, if it'll focus. And I have a Guggen Squad Saucy Swimmer, or actually, I have a Kitech Fat Swim Impact lure on there. I really like this color in particular because it's like a gray and a clear, which matches this perfectly. I really like whites because, again, they imitate shad, baitfish, other kinds of things that they're feeding on in the pre-spawn. And I really like swimming these. This will be for super clear water, almost gin clear water, that I would throw this, but you can also throw this in partially stained water. But if it's super muddy, I would again want to go with something a little more enticing, like a bluegill or whatever this color is called in muddy water. But for clean water, definitely throw this in the pre-spawn. It's a lure and a color that you can't be without. For my last color, it is an old classic. It is chartreuse and white, one of the best colors, but the most unique thing about this is I actually have a white bandito bug. For those of you who don't know what a bandito bug is, it's like a creature style bait, and these two appendages just flap like crazy in the water. It is originally white, as you can see there, but I put a little JJ's Magic on it on the end to match perfectly the chartreuse I had right there. And whenever these things flap, it looks exactly like a minnow, but it also looks like a crawdad. So two great things that I can imitate. I really like the mini version of the bandito bug just because it's easier to put on the hook of your jig or just a mini Texas rig. Sometimes the big ones you have to bite off the head, but with this one it was perfectly sized. Lastly, this was my third bait. I really like the chatterbait. This next lure is sometimes called a do-nothing lure because you don't really do anything with it. It kind of just sits there, but it does catch a lot of fish. This bait is the Senko. I have a cream colored, what brand is this? Crazy Craft Bait Super Stick 4-inch version, I believe. The Senko is a super good bait all year round. But the reason I really like it in the pre-spawn is because those bass are sometimes pretty finicky, and the Senko just seems to always catch fish no matter the conditions or whatever. Now, sometimes color does play a factor. I like to throw whites again in clear water, maybe like a green pumpkin in some more stained water. I really like a color like this because it's not super white, but it is pretty white, but it also does give off like a little bit of an orange tinge, which sometimes can attract the attention of a fish. If I was throwing a Senko, I'd probably throw a very small Senko, because if you're throwing a Senko in the pre-spawn, clearly the bass are finicky and they're not biting on everything. So the Senko is a really, really good lure to use when those bass aren't biting or the water's cold. I like to Texas rig it. I also really like to wacky rig it, especially in the spawn, but this video is about the pre-spawn. I can't really talk a lot about the Senko. Most fishermen are really, really comfortable with the Senko because they've thrown it all their life. But again, the Senko, my fourth lure on this list. Now on to the final one. This last lure is a fairly unknown lure, I've noticed. A lot of people use it, but then again, I've noticed a lot of people don't even know about it. That is the Fluke or soft plastic jerkbait. I've had it called both. I don't know what to call it. I'm just gonna call it the Fluke for now. I really, really like throwing it in the pre-spawn because, one, it's exactly like a jerkbait, which I've already talked about. So all the reasons I talked about why a jerkbait is great also applies to the Fluke. Another reason I like the Fluke, though, is one, it doesn't have those treble hooks, so it doesn't get hung up as easily. And I really like Texas rigging it. The reason I like Texas rigging it is because I can swim it. I really, really like swimming it, whereas you can't do that with a jerkbait, or if you did, you wouldn't have much success. This is like a pro blue red color. As you can see, it has a lot of blue sparkles, but it has that hint of red in it / pink. This one you can see the blue a little bit more. This tail, like literally, you could pretty much sit it on the bottom and just jig it up and then jig it down, which is actually a really good strategy to use. But as you can see, just me barely tapping it makes that tail just dance. And you can imagine with like current in a lake or a river or wherever you're fishing will definitely make that lure dance. Line I would throw this on, definitely probably fluorocarbon or braid or monofilament, it doesn't really matter. Those are the three big ones. It's a Texas rig, and Texas rigs are pretty simple. I went over it in my last video, so if you want to go check out that one, that was how to catch big bass in the summertime, which I highly suggest you watch, which is coming up right after spring. But techniques I really like to use, again, like I talked about, like jigging it up and then letting it go back down. That looks like a dying bait fish. I also really like just straight swimming it, as I talked about, or just fish it like a jerkbait and just jerk, and then pause, and then jerk, and then pause. It's pretty simple. If you know how to fish a jerkbait, you should have a lot of success with the Fluke. It is sort of a more finicky style of fishing, but if you've noticed, the pre-spawn does have a lot of finicky fish. The water is super cold sometimes, but it's also really warm, so you can have either really bad fishing or really good fishing. But most of the time, if you throw these lures, you will have a lot of success. And that wraps up my 5 lures for this video. If you've stuck around all of this time, I greatly thank you for all of your watch time. And make sure to check to see if you're subscribed, because if you made it to the end, I hope that you're a fisherman and you can enjoy more of my fishing videos. I'm actually on the road to 250 subscribers by the end of this year, and if we get there, I will be doing a huge giveaway, along with several giveaways until then. I'm only dropping this hint at the end because I want the most loyal subscribers to be able to participate in giveaways. Remember, please like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment for more videos I should do. I love hearing comments from your guys, and I really appreciate when you comment. I respond to every single one, and I would appreciate if you did so. Stay tuned for my next video, which I don't know what's going to be yet. The weather was super cold here for a very long time, but it is starting to warm up slowly. Today it was about 60 degrees, which is a far cry from the -20 we had a couple days ago. Hopefully fishing will return soon. We might actually have a fishing video next week. It all just depends on how the weather is. But until then, I'll see you in the next upload.